Hello again, this is Matt from Nearmint Plus, and today we don't actually have an opening video. We have a video to talk about grading cards. This is quite a hot topic recently with the current explosion of popularity of Pokemon cards once again. People have been digging out their collections and seeing what they may or may not want to slab up, as they say, which is the process of sending one of your cards off to a grading company to see what they say about the quality of it, give it a rank from 1 to 10, and then give it back to you in a big thick plastic case which can't be opened again without destroying the case, and it usually adds value to the card. If you were to have just a normal card as it is, you sell it as sold in the condition that you think it's in, and it can go from, let's say, just for sake of example, this Sweedle, if I say I can sell this for £10 ungraded, in near mint condition. Now if I was to go send this off to a grading company, get it back as a, let's say, a PSA is one of the grading companies, and if they come back and say this is a PSA 9, then I'm already looking at an increase in value of being able to sell it, because it's a guarantee that this card is in that condition to warrant a grade 9, and that condition won't change because it's now slabbed. So it's a perfect way of changing a card from something that's worth money and still playable into something that's worth more money, but of course is now unplayable. So just to go back to the beginning, as far as grading companies goes, there's two main ones, and they both are in the United States. There's PSA and Beckett, otherwise sometimes shortened to BGS, and they grade their cards slightly differently. If you were to send a card off to PGS, then they would take a look at it, they'd give it some grade, and you get it back in a slab with a grade number in the top there between 1 and 10, and that's it. PSA does that. BGS, however, when you send a card off to them to get it graded, they will send it back to you with an overall grade again in the top corner here, but they'll also break down into subgrades the condition of the cards, and the subgrades are surface. So the surface of the card, has the card seen play over time? Has it been pushed around on play mats? Has it been picked up? Has it been sort of fingernails, rub dings on it? That's the surface. The other one they look at is corners. How sharp are the corner cuts? Are they still nice and minty fresh, straight from a booster? Have they had a little bit of edge damage? Have they had any wear? Speaking of edge damage, edges is another thing that they look at. So they will look at all of the edges along. They'll look for obvious signs of wear, so little white marks or dings where it's quite obvious that something's happened to the card, or any surface wear along the edge as well, where there may have been tiny little scratch marks from where it's been moved around on a hard surface without a sleeve on, or anything like that. So what's that? So that's surface, corners, edges, and the last one I'm struggling to think of right now, I'll come back to it. But they look at 4 subgrades, and you will get 4 subgrades for that, which then make up your overall grade. And with BGS, Beckett ones, you can get a 10, which you can get if the subgrades are mostly 10s with maybe a 9.5, or you can shoot for what's called a black label pristine, which is all 10s flat across the board. This card is perfect in every single way, and obviously those are pretty hard to get hold of. So my collection mostly consists of old Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering cards. I've been playing Magic and collecting Magic a lot longer than I have Pokemon cards, but back in the day when Pokemon first came out, I picked up some packs, and so I have some old bits and pieces from way back in the day, and the time has now come for me to start looking at, do I want to get any of these graded and slabbed up? Do I want to sort of lock in the investment and hope that it only then goes up over time, instead of them just sitting either gathering dust in my collection or potentially losing grade marks from the constant, if I'm moving boxes around, or there's a million different factors could happen that could damage the card. So one of the things you're going to want to think about is if you're in the UK and you don't have access to Beckett or PSA, well, how do I get my cards graded? Luckily, there are some UK companies that provide a service where they will take your cards for you, get them all sorted and organised, and then they will ship them in bulk, en masse, off to usually PSA. I haven't found anybody that does Beckett yet, but they'll ship them off to PSA. PSA will look at your card, send them back to the UK company, and then you get your cards back. It is a lengthy process at the best of times, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, unfortunately. And PSA certainly are trying to ramp up their capabilities at the moment, but there is a severe backlog at the moment in card grading. This is probably also in no small part down to the explosion of popularity, as I mentioned before, of Pokemon at the moment, which has just gone crazy. So it's causing a lot of people to go through their old shoeboxes, their old collections, and see, do I actually have something that's a hidden gem? Do I have something that's actually worth slabbing up? That's something that I'm looking to lock in the value of. And there's a lot of different factors that go into that. For Magic, it's actually slightly easier than it is with Pokemon. Pokemon is a newer game as such. It came out after Magic, and Magic was 93. This was 96, I want to say, 99 in the UK era, around the late 90s anyway. And it never really had the same collectability factor as Magic cards gained. Magic cards gained that very quickly because of a few different factors. Pokemon cards, of course, were very much, even more so than Magic cards, playground cards for kids, marketed towards children. It's a simplified card game compared to some of the other card games out there. Obviously, these days it's gotten a bit more complicated, but certainly back in the day, these weren't cards that you kept. These were, you just played them, you played them out on the street, you played them on the floor, you played them wherever. They all got bashed, they all got mixed up with everything, and it's hard to find good quality examples of early Pokemon cards because they weren't treated as collectibles back then. They were treated as trading cards, cards which you moved around, you used, got a lot of love. And that was certainly the case as well for Magic right back in the early days of 93, maybe 94. But Magic, when it caught on, suddenly it became collectible very, very quickly, and prices started to go up very, very quickly as well. And there was a lot of furore back in the day of reprinting cards in Magic. Magic's first 4 sets were reprint sets. You have Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, and Revised, and they were all essentially the same cards. Some cards were taken out over time, and cards were changed to have a white border instead of a black border, which they had in Alpha and Beta, just to differentiate the printings and bits and pieces like that. But the real nail in the coffin was when Wizards released a set called Chronicles. And Chronicles was sort of a best-of set of the most early expansions, like Arabian Nights and Legends, which were incredibly popular sets that people wanted to get hold of as the popularity of Magic went through the roof. And those sets just weren't available anymore. Wizards thought, oh, I know, we'll take some gems from all of those sets and we'll reprint them again. They were all in black border previously. We'll print them in white border to differentiate them, and we'll release that as a set called Chronicles, which is sort of a best of Magic's early hits. And the collectors went nuts. They were like, you're taking all of these cards that you've invested a lot of money in, and you're just printing them again. Okay, they've got a white border, but you're printing them again so anyone can get hold of them. That's completely destroyed the financial value of all the cards before it. So Wizards took on board the feedback and the quite virulent antagonism and threats, I'm sure, that they received over the set Chronicles. And they decided, along with a few other factors, but mostly that they would create a thing called the reserved list. And cards that were on the reserved list, Wizards would guarantee that they would never reprint in their current frame border treatment. There was a little loophole in that when Wizards started producing premium cards, which some collectors know as foils or holos from the Pokemon world, Wizards thought that they had a little loophole there, that they could produce those reserved list cards again as foils because they'd never been foil before, therefore that card never existed before. It wasn't too long until the feedback again got back to them that no, that's still not what we want. Please just keep the reserved list completely untouched. Do never reprint. And by and large, Wizards have now clamped down the reserve list to just be never printed again. A few leaked out over the years. They did some World Championship decks which had gold borders of reserve list cards. They did judge reward promos of reserve list cards, which again were different artwork, different frame styling, different foiling on them. But every time the feedback came back that no, they're reserve list, don't reprint them. So reserve list is where the big money lies in Magic. Those are the kinds of cards that you want to get slabbed up. And there are a few outlying types of cards which also benefit from not being reserved list, but sort of being pseudo reserved list, as in you're probably not going to see them printed in this way again, which is things like this Ether Vial card we're looking at here. So over the last month or so, I've been pouring through my old collections, thinking that this is probably now the time to send off an order for grading. It's a really good time to do it. Card prices are going through the roof, and there's a lot of interest in the market at the moment. So now is a good time for me to try and see what I've got to lock in some of my value as such. And again, Magic, it's a bit more straightforward. So they're quite obvious which ones you should be looking for to pull out, and you actually get a discount when you're sending off to graders. Of a volume discount, so it's worth sending a decent chunk in at a time rather than, oh, I'll just send this one in, see if that comes back, and then maybe I'll do another one next week. No, it doesn't work like that. You're going to be paying a lot more money, and the turnaround time, certainly at the moment, is formidable to say the least. You're looking at, oh goodness me, 90 business working days to get your card even looked at, and that's not including all of the postage or any pre-screening that might happen, everything else that can happen. You're looking at, when you're sending a card off for grading at the moment, unless you pay a lot of money to speed up the process, which can be done, you're not going to see these cards again for a very long time. So you have to be certain that the cards you're sending off, you're okay with not seeing again, not having in your hands for a long time. These aren't cards that you're looking to get a quick turnaround on. They are things that you're looking to sell into a bubble, because by the time most of them come back, that bubble will have gone. But hey, you might be thinking, well, at least then I'll be able to catch the next bubble. I'll be ready for it. So going quickly through the Magic ones, there's less of these. These are a few that I've picked out from the collection, which I think are good candidates. And by good candidates, you're looking at cards to get graded, which you think are going to get a high grade. And by high grade, we're talking really anything 9+. Is it worth getting something graded if you think it's going to be less than a 9? Sometimes, if you think you've got maybe a strong 8, that could add a little bit of value, but anything below that, 7 and below, in my view, is really not worth getting done. The whole point of slabbing up a card, for the most part, is that it adds value. You've got a really, really nice, pristine collector's item that will add value by having a high grade on it. The outlying cards in that respect are cards which might not get a high grade, but which are very, very scarce. Very, very scarce indeed. And it's a good way of holding onto them to make sure that they don't deteriorate any further, and people will still buy low grade, very scarce graded products simply because of the scarcity. It then flips into becoming less about how pristine and amazing the card is into just how hard it is to get hold of that thing in the first place in any sort of non-folded up, creased, destroyed condition. So for my Magic collection, I've had a good look through. I've got lots of reserve list cards. I don't own any of the high-end. I'm not a mega financier, collector, bags of money, anything like that. I've got no Power 9. I've got no Black Lotuses lying around. But I've got a few from sets and collections I've collected over the years, and I've gone through and I've pulled these ones out. And there's other ones which I could have pulled out. Things like, let's say, Grim Monolith from Urza's Legacy. Grim Monolith, fantastic, very high price card from the Urza's Legacy set. I've got one of those. Another one is from Stronghold, the expansion symbol there, Stronghold. This is a Sliver Queen. I've got a Mox Diamond from Stronghold. It's not in very good condition, and same with the Grim Monolith. When examined just by me, just looking at it under a strong light, looking at it, feeling it, getting a sense of it, I don't think they're going to grade very high at the moment, and I don't feel like they're quite at the point where people are going to be putting a premium on getting a low graded Grim Monolith, say, at a low grade for a low price, because there's so many of them out there compared to the earlier cards that are going to get higher grades. It's just not worth it at this point. Give it another, another decade. Wait for things to happen. Over time, cards get destroyed in various ways. There are natural disasters, there's home fires, you name it, cards get lost. These cards, once they're printed and once the printer's done, they will only ever get less of them in the world, and certainly less of them at any decent quality. So sometimes it's just not worth spending the money to slab something up that is going to take a long amount of time to actually make your money back. You might as well keep hold of it for now and do some better examples that you've got. So just quickly, these examples I'm going to show you here. We'll start with a nice easy one. This is a Kaladesh Invention Ether Vial. Now, these come in two different styles. There's a Europe version and a US version. The US version, the entire card is foiled, and the UK Europe version, you can just see there the filigree border and text area is the only foiling on that. The artwork is untouched. There's not a lot of difference. It's a big difference if you're a collector and you're after one certain type. But as far as grading the card goes, they are completely different. This is a nice Booster Fresh unplayed Ether Vial, and you can sort of see on the camera there, it's in a sleeve in a top loader. These are top loaders. They are nice, rigid, acrylic, snappy card loaders. They protect the card, and you also have a soft card sleeve on the inside. Just this one's in a soft sleeve, for example. Just a penny sleeve is absolutely fine to take care of it while it's in there, and that's all the protection that you need to send it off. This Ether Vial, as I say, it looks to me like it's got fantastic centering. There's not a mark on it. I think that's a really good, strong, at least 9+ candidate, so that's why that one's going off. And it's from a ancillary sort of bonus set of cards that you could find maybe 1 or 2 in every 6 booster boxes. For every case of booster boxes, you could try and pull an invention, as these were called, and they're a frame treatment that we're probably not going to see again. Like, it's not a reserve list card. Ether Vials can be printed willy-nilly by Wizards. They can put them in any set that they like, but to get them in this style, probably not going to happen again. So this is a good candidate for sending off for grading. This one is from the English Portal 3 Kingdoms set. 3 Kingdoms was released in, I think, 3 different languages, 2 or 3 different languages. Definitely English, definitely Chinese, possibly Japanese, I don't know. But getting them in English was not very easy at all. They were not really released in English-speaking countries in Europe. They were very hard to get hold of. For some reason, this mountain artwork is just a basic land card. Otherwise, this mountain artwork is considered the chase land type to get from all of the basic lands on set, and it commands a bit of a premium. I've got a few versions of this. This is the only one I've got which doesn't have obvious signs of wear. I'm trying to catch it on the light there. You can sort of see around on the gloss there. There's no real scratches or marks on it, so that's why that one's going off. Still need to top load on that one. There is another 3 Kingdoms card in here. Now, English versions, a lot harder to get hold of than the foreign language ones, a lot more desirable as far as collecting goes. This one, you can see, this is a Lady Zhong. She is a bit off-centered, which is the only issue with this card that I could easily detect. Again, no real surface wear. Anything that you see on there is actually, it's not on there. It's either on the sleeve or on the acrylic. I'm not going to keep taking them out of acrylics just to show off little bits and pieces, but it's more obvious on the front there. That top white border is pretty big compared to the rest of the borders around there. So companies, when they grade, they may give you a little sort of brackets on the grade, like an OC, off-center, things like that. They're not considered grade deductible, because it's just, the card is still absolutely perfect. It's how the card was out of the factory, but because of a centering issue, or maybe there's like a print dot on it, maybe there's a print line on it, something that's out of your control, they are considered things that need pointing out on your graded card to people. So we'll skip on through. So we've got Sliver Queen, another lovely example, no real surface damage, reserve list from Stronghold. We've got a Lake of the Dead from Alliances. Lake of the Dead is one which I feel like is poised to go up rather soon. It is desirable as a reserve list card. There has been a little bit of financial movement on it lately, and I think it's a good time to start getting decent examples slammed up. And finally, an Earthbind. This is a common card from Alpha, the very first Magic set. You can tell it's an Alpha for many reasons. It's black bordered, it's Earthbind, it was only in Alpha and Beta, and it's got very, very curved corners compared to a regular these days Magic card. You can see the corner difference there. The radius on that corner is huge compared to a normal Magic card cut. So why bother getting a common graded? Well, it's an Alpha common, and these days Alpha commons in good condition, hard to get hold of. And this is also a common which has not been reprinted. This is not really a card that Wizards would print again under its current philosophy of, well, certainly the artwork, but how cards are and what cards do in certain colors and their abilities. And enchant flying creature is just not something they do anymore. So it's, again, pseudo reserve list, probably not going to get printed again. This is not a pristine example. You can see right there, you got some whitening on that edge. That's just a little bit of ding at the top. Everything else about it is absolutely lovely. I think this could probably get a 7 or an 8, which for an alpha common of the pseudo reserve list, definitely worth doing. Alright, so if you're stuck around, or if you skip to this bit, if you're interested in Pokemon, back in the day I was a mild Pokemon collector. So I've got some of the original, they aren't first edition, sadly, and they aren't shadowless, but they are base set, unlimited, essentially gem mint examples of some of the starter Pokemon. You can see there's no whitening, there's no chips or dits on the back there. And I'm starting to try and figure out which ones of these I do and do not want to send, because some of them do have a little bit of either wear or damage on them. And I've got to think again, you know, at the end of the day, these are not the most desirable versions of these cards. They do come in first editions, they do come in shadowless, sometimes they even come in misprinted where they don't have a rare symbol at the bottom, and they all add up on tiers of value. So these ones, you know, as far as base set Pokemon English go, these are the bottom. These are unlimited print. They've got a shadow around the box here, so they're not shadowless, but they are now getting a lot more attention because Pokemon is, again, the popularity of it is going through the roof. People are digging out their old collections. There are a ton of these unlimited versions out there in the wild. It's not worth grading them unless you think you've got a good shot at a 9/10 grade on them. Because again, although there's a ton of these out there, these were common cards back in the day. They were played. They were, I mean, these guys, they're starter Pokemon, you know, from the games. So people would use these a lot. So it's difficult to find them in very good condition, let alone sort of near mint to gem. So I've been going through and picking out some which I think are contenders. I've got a few there. There's a few more in this stack. These are all Japanese. Which ones are here? This is the promo Machamp that you got with the starter deck. So this one you can see is first edition. Does have a shadow. Does have a rarity symbol. Is still in its original little plastic packaging here. So that has protected it over the years from any sort of damage, dents and dings. The foiling is where a lot of them really fall down, because this foiling scratches very, very easily. And unfortunately, even through this plastic, I've been able to determine that there is a very, very, I don't know if I can see it on the camera, it's around here somewhere, there is a very faint line in the foiling. So I need to make a decision on if I want to bother sending that one in or not. Would it get an 8? Probably. Would it get a 9? With that line, it's very hard to see, but it is a line. So I don't know, I'll think about that one. And a few more examples in here. I've got a lot of, here we go. So Jungle Pikachu with the red cheeks, and regular Pikachu from the base set, unlimited base set again, with non-red cheeks. Again, it's Pikachu, so you know there's a little bit of added collectability to the fact that it's Pikachu. People really like this original red cheek one from Jungle. This is Jungle expansion, not first edition as usual, but again they are incredibly good condition. They've never really seen play, so see the backs there, there's no real issues there. That one's got just a tiny, is that dirt or a ding, I don't know, but there's little bits and pieces to look out for, and that's what you're looking for. Is if you're going to spend the time and the money to send these cards off, you got to make sure that's worthwhile doing. And if you see a ding, as much as you don't want it to be there, it's there. You can't get away from it. Don't bother wasting your money and sending the card. Wait again, this, if you can, this next 10-20 years, when by then the next leap of, well, now there's less of them around, you've got a better chance at people actually wanting ones which have minor issues with them. So these Charmanders and Charmeleons, and these are all from my own personal collection from way back in the day. And these, certainly the Charmeleon, you can see, look at that off-centering. Look at that top and left border, massive. So this will obviously get a big hit on the off-centering, but luckily, again, condition of the back, as far as scratches, anything like that goes. These were barely used back in the day. I'll try and get the light on it again. The fronts aren't normally big indicators of wear. It's the backs, of course, because they get pushed around all the time. So it's on the back, so you're looking for those tiny little fine lines, anything like that, which indicates that they were pushed and pulled around. This one pretty good by the looks of it. So these are good candidates again for grading, because it's a Charizard evolution, isn't it? You've got Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. I don't have any Charizards, unfortunately, because I'd be doing a very different video if I had any Charizards. Those are where the very big money are. But then again, these are of that family. They are the starter Pokemon and the middle evolution, so they are desirable in their own way. And that's what you got to look for when you've got lots and lots of a type of card. You've got to look for, okay, what's the best of the bulk? And as far as Pokemon card commons go, it's got to be starter Pokemon and their evolutions. Again, just a few more examples. Let's go through a bit more quickly. These last ones, again, you can see here, these are all ones which I've picked out for potentials, for grading purposes. This is a Mewtwo that I had literally knocking around in a DVD case because it came with a DVD. Unfortunately, that has meant that it's just gained wear by being loose in the DVD case. It was a promo Mewtwo which came with the UK DVD release. The front isn't so bad. Back, unfortunately, does have signs of just being loose in a DVD case. So that's all it was. It was just plonked in the case. So that one, I don't know, maybe a 7, maybe an 8 if I'm lucky. Don't think I'll bother at this point, not rare enough. And a few more just base set Pokemon. Again, there are some outliers, Dratini, Growlithe, Machoke, which for whatever reason are a little bit more desirable than the others. If you got them in good condition, fantastic. So moving on to Japanese base set. Now, back in the day, Japanese, I was able to get hold of some Japanese base set packs, and this was, we're talking way back in the day. This was when nobody really wanted them, nobody really cared about them in English. Local shop had them. I bought a few packs just out of curiosity, stuck them in a box, stuck them back in the packs, stuck them in a box, didn't think about them. They've just moved around with me all this time. And of course now is the time to start pulling them out and looking at them again. So I had maybe 5 or 6 packs of base edition, 1 pack of Jungle, 1 pack of Team Rocket. And luckily I had some pretty good pulls out of those packs at the time. They weren't sleeved up, they weren't doing anything else, but they were in a pack in a box. So luckily they've not received much in the way of damage or wear or anything, and I've not been able to detect certainly on these foils and anything like that. There's no damage to those at all. There's nothing. The backs are pristine. So it's a really good time to pull those out and start thinking about what I want to do with those. Japanese ones, of course, the language means that they are slightly less desirable than the English ones, but we're not talking huge factors of desirability changes here. You know, this is probably the best one out of the lot. This is a base set Venusaur Hollow, absolutely pristine. It does have a rarity symbol, some Japanese ones don't, which pushes them into the big bucks. Centering is lovely. That isn't a ding on the card, that's just dirt on the case, and it's absolutely wonderful. So this one is definitely going off. You know, it's a base set starter Pokemon, final evolution. It's, you know, it's up there with the Blastoise and the Charizard. So that's a really good contender. We've got a few others again. Base set, starter Pokemon, really good examples. They're always going to be desirable. They're the starter Pokemon, doesn't matter what language they're in. Same with the evolutions off of those. These guys with the foilings, they aren't the most desirable cards from those sets. You know, who wants a Poliwrath or a Mr. Mime from Jungle or a Vileplume from Rocket? Nobody really cares about that. But at this time, because the foiling is so sensitive, and the popularity is growing, Jungle, Team Rocket, Fossil, things like that are going to be next on collectors' hit lists once the low-hanging fruit from the base sets gets picked up. So it's now, I think it's a really good time to not only try and get ahead of the bubble a little bit on these types of cards, but also just make sure doubly that this foiling gets protected, gets slabbed up nicely, and then hopefully when the market shifts and moves on to other things, they'll be there ready and waiting. Again, trainer cards, I've not seen a lot of demand for these types of trainer cards, even the basic ones. They're worth having a look at just in case. And again, if you've got a minty mint, absolutely pristine version of a trainer card, then yeah, by all means go for it, because people are looking to complete sets, and not a lot of people will always grade something like that because they're not the most desirable and people don't want them. But there's a small subset of people who will want to collect an entire PSA set of certain types of cards. So it's not a waste of time. If you're selling in a bulk order, you need to get prices down. Chuck a few of those in. These guys, these are the rest of the base set and the Team Rocket and whatever else that I picked. There's no contenders in here really for grading at the moment that I can see. There's some nice cards. They'll be ready to go maybe on the next round that I want to do, just to start getting a few extra things slabbed up again as the market focus changes. So that's all old cards that we've talked about. Let's talk about this card here. This is obviously a very recent card. Pokemon cards these days, of course, come in so many different flavors, shapes, sizes, promos, foilings, versions of foilings, secret rares, reverse. The list goes on and on and on and on. And I would be super cautious about grading any recent Pokemon cards. There are some outliers. Any particularly rare promo cards, anything bonkers out of Hidden Fates or Champion's Path, anything like that. I mean, I've got I don't have it here at the moment. I was just seeing if I had it. I don't have the Charizard at the moment. I've got the Charizard Hidden Fates one. It's a lovely card. You're not adding a ton of value at the moment by getting them slapped up because they're already expensive, and there's so many of them out there. Most recent Pokemon card printings, I dread to think how many of these types of cards, even the rarest ones, there are out there. You're not adding a ton of value. These are ones that if you've got a really nice card that you really like the look of and you want to keep it for the future, sure, send it in with the rest. Understand that the multiplier that you're going to get from something like this, if I sold this for, I don't know, £5 on eBay just as it is, if I get it slammed up and it comes back as a 9 or heaven forbid a 10, then you're starting to look at a 10 times factor at minimum for the value of that card. It really goes up very, very quickly. These ones, they don't. They're worth a lot of money to start with. Quality control is better these days. The off-centering is not going to be quite as extreme as you got in the old days. There's going to be less examples of poorly printed cards than there are these days as well. So if I sent this, if this card was worth, say, let's say 60 quid now, if I sent that off and it came back as a PSA 9, say, I don't know, maybe 100, 150? That's not a very big multiplier. You could say, well, double your money, that's great. If you're slabbing them up for financial purposes, though, that's a bit of a loss. There's no point spending the money, by the time you take off the fees and the charges that you've taken to get this card graded, was it really worth it? Maybe you should be focusing more on these kinds of things instead of the modern ones where print runs are through the roof and everybody is doing it. Everybody's got probably a minty one of these hanging around just waiting to go as soon as the market suddenly shifts that way and says, oh, these ones now. So these ones I would say get done for nostalgic purposes, for sentimental reasons. If this card means something more to you than other Pokemon cards out recently, if you just really, really like it, then sure, go ahead, get it graded. Just don't expect to then get it back, come back as a Gem Mint 10 and stick it on eBay for £5,000. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be anywhere close to that for a long time to come. So that's just my thoughts on the most recent types of cards. So thank you for joining me for the video today. I hope it's been insightful in some ways, useful, hopefully. Just my thoughts as I've been pouring through things and the current craze of getting things graded. As I say, do remember it does cost a lot of money to get things graded, and it does take, currently certainly, a very long time. So be prepared for that. This isn't just I'll just send out 100 cards, get them all done. So you send out 100 cards, that's going to cost you about £1,000 at the very, very lowest level. Basic, absolute basic. So it's a lot of money you got to tie up just to get back to potentially just sit around for a lot longer. Make sure you've got the funds in reserve for that kind of thing. As I say, thank you for watching the video today. If you do like this kind of content, please leave a comment, like and subscribe, do all those good things, and I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye.